Welcome back everyone, and thank you for joining the channel. So far we have handled some issues which some followers may consider for beginners. The idea of the channel is to approach the practice and theory of translation gradually, but I think we can also attend to the needs of the different levels of our followers. Therefore, today I will talk about translation strategies that may be helpful to all translators at all levels. In the field of translation, many terms are used to describe how a text is or should be translated, like translation theory, translation studies, methods, strategies, procedure. We'll talk about the first two terms in detail later, simply because we don't have to be aware of translation theories or translation studies while translating, but what we should be aware of is how to handle any problem we come across while translating. Therefore, I think starting with the last three terms could be relevant to translation practice at all levels. So, what is a translation strategy? A translation strategy or technique or procedure is often applied by translators to solve a problematic issue in the source text that might be confusing to the target readers if left unhandled. But is there a difference between a strategy, a method, or procedure? Actually, these terms are sometimes used interchangeably. However, some scholars of translation, like Bell, made a distinction between global and local strategies, indicating that methods deal with whole text while strategies deal with text segments. The two scopes of strategies are called methods and procedures by Newmark, who argued that while translation methods relate to whole text, translation procedures are used for sentences and the smaller units of language. Therefore, Newmark used translation procedures for the translation of sentences and the smaller units below, while a translation method is used for the whole text. In this sense, they are open-ended. We may have an endless list of strategies or procedures, unlike methods. For instance, many authors and even experienced translators proposed a variety of strategies or procedures in an attempt to describe or analyze the translation process and to help translators find an equivalent form in the target language when translators fail to find one-to-one correspondence. Are strategies language specific? Languages may have universal and idiosyncratic features, specific features. With specific features or idiosyncratic features, one should find particular ways to transfer them to different languages. But here we can have a look at a brief outline of a widely accepted list of translation strategies. Basically, a frequently quoted classification of strategies is that proposed by Vinay and Dabbanay, who proposed two categories: direct and oblique, or indirect, that correspond to literal and free method of translation. Under each category, Vinay and Dabbanay listed further subcategories. So we have two major types: direct, which focuses on the source text, the exact words of the writer in the text we are translating; and oblique, indirect translation that focuses more on its target text. The first strategy or procedure: borrowing. Foreign words are borrowed from one language via transcription or transliteration to introduce the flavor of the source language culture into a translation. We directly import a foreign word in its original form and meaning from another language. This is actually a very common process in all languages. It's also the easiest and most straightforward, as languages borrow from one another words that do not exist in their dictionaries. Words like pizza. In Arabic, it's pizza, which is borrowed from Italian. It's also pizza in English, Spanish, French, German. Literal translation. It's the direct transfer of a source language text into a grammatically appropriate target language text. The translator can simply open the dictionary to pick the equivalent of each form while respecting the grammar of the target language. It involves word for word translation, and the meaning of words is derived straight from the dictionary while keeping the target language grammar and word order intact. For example, the man in the green coat is my friend. الرجل في المعطف الأخضر صديقي. You can map each word in Arabic to its equivalent form in English. But the second sentence, الرجل الذي يرتدي معطفا أخضرا صديقي, where can we map the word يرتدي? It doesn't exist in the English version. So here we cannot say it's a literal translation. I'm going to the beach. سأذهب إلى الشاطئ. What the difference between this sentence and I will go to the beach? سأذهب إلى الشاطئ أيضا. In English, we can know the difference grammatically. But in Arabic, we can express the same function, the same grammatical function lexically. We'll discuss this point in detail later when we talk about Catford's shift or types of shifts. Now we'll go to calc. Calc is a literal translation, but it's at phrase level. This method can be observed when a language borrows an expression from another, but then translates literally each of its elements. السوق السوداء, for example, black market. This expression is borrowed from English. Play a role. In Arabic, يلعب دورا. When did we have this phrase in Arabic, يلعب دورا? If you go back to the early classical Arabic literature, you won't find an instance of that expression. Money laundry, again, غسيل الأموال. skyscraper, ناطحة سحاب. businessman, رجل أعمال. When did we have رجل أعمال in Arabic? Can we find the same example in early Islamic text or early Arabic text? I think you will find the word تاجر, كبير التجار, but رجل أعمال is borrowed from English literally. This is calc. Oblique translation or indirect translation. This is the second type proposed by Vinay and Dabonnet. They also listed further subcategories. Transposition, for example. Transposition involves replacing one word class with another without changing the meaning of the message. We can change a verb to noun, a noun to verb, an adjective to noun, a noun to adjective. You can basically change any category of word to keep the target text as natural as possible. For example, he promised to finish his work before he comes back. وعد أن ينجز عمله قبل عودته. Before he comes back is a verb, comes back is a verb, but we can say قبل أن يعود or قبل عودته. If we use قبل عودته, so we have used transposition. There is a reason for life. Here you can say يوجد سبب للحياة، هناك سبب للحياة أو للعيش. But also you can say هناك سبب لنعيش أو لكي نعيش من أجله. So you can change the word life, which is a noun, into a verb, or you can keep it. It's optional, it's up to you. But look at this example. The program was a success. The word success here is a noun. If you translate it literally without considering the procedure, without using that procedure, it doesn't work in Arabic. The program was a success. كان البرنامج نجاحا. It doesn't work. So here we have to change the noun success into an adjective. كان البرنامج ناجحا. Another example. Eat more vegetables. Can we say كلوا خضروات أكثر? It's okay. But what about أكثروا من تناول الخضروات؟ أكثروا من أكل الخضروات. أكثروا من الخضروات. The second is more natural in Arabic. Modulation. Modulation is a variation of the form of the message obtained by a change in the point of view, according to Finney and Nabhany. This definition could be hard to understand. Modulation occurs when the translator reproduces the message of the original text in conformity with the current norms of the target language. We still need to explain what these words mean. I think we can put it in a more simple terms. Look at that saying. What would you do if you put yourself in my shoes? Let us give an example, and you can figure out these definitions and the saying as well. The word kafir. I checked the meanings of the word kafir in Arabic dictionaries. For example, Al-Ma'ani Dictionary Online. I found the following: atheist, disbeliever, infidel, unbeliever. This is not true in many cases. You can see the entries listed in Al-Ma'ani Dictionary misleading. Calling someone as infidel is very offensive in all languages. The Islamic definition of kafir is not reflected in the meaning listed in the dictionary. The word kafir gives different meaning in different cultures and different languages. But in Islam, we have got specific meaning for the word kafir. It's not like the word mushrik, it's not like the word munafiq, it's not like apostate in like the meaning given by Al-Ma'ani Dictionary. But I can translate the word kafir differently. It depends on what context I work on. For example, I can translate the word kafir as a denier, and sometimes I translate the word kafir as a non-Muslim. I use the word kafir as a denier of truth, or I can use the word non-Muslim as an equivalent for the word kafir when I try to communicate with others it's very useful to use this word non-Muslim for interfaith dialogue. So modulations can give you a strategy to make the translation more acceptable to the target culture. Here, the negated opposite can make the translator handle sensitive issues to the others. Another example, the word كاذب. Can you call your close friends liars? Can you call an old colleague who is more senior at work a liar? كاذب? Here we can move to another level of translation, where we can consider the effective meaning, not the direct meaning. If you check the meaning of lying in dictionaries or language books, you will find in Arabic books, for example, الصدق مطابقة الحكم للواقع. If you tell what happened correctly, so this is called صدق, telling what happened correctly. الكذب مخالفة الواقع. You are not telling the truth. If you don't tell the truth, it's called كذب, lying. So, if you want to stick to the word كذب, you can use the negated opposite, which is one type of modulation. You can say غير صادق, which could be better than using the direct word liar in some time. Also, you can use a phrase أنت تخالف الواقع. You are not telling the truth. It's not true. This gives the same meaning as كاذب when the situation is tense. It also depends on how acceptable your literal translation is to the target audience or culture. Another type of modulation, reversal of terms. Let's give some examples. It's not difficult to. We can translate this phrase as من الصعب. This is a literal translation, but we also can say من السهل by reversing the terms. Remember can be literally translated as تذكر, but also we can say لا تنسى. We have just discussed two types of modulation in brief. Basically, Vinay and Dabbanay counted 11 types of modulation, including the above. I think we can talk about this strategy separately, in detail, because it's one of the benchmarks of competent translators. Equivalence. The same situation is rendered by two texts using completely different stylistic and structural methods. For example, a stitch in time saves 9. This is commonly translated as الوقاية خير من العلاج. من شب على شيء شاب عليه. Also, this is translated in many books as old habits die hard. Every tide has an ebb. Again, you can find that phrase, that proverb translated as لكل جواد كبوة. Here we focused on meaning, using completely different stylistic and structural methods. This could be an effective procedure in translating idioms, proverbs, clichés. The point is to give similar meaning in different form. Adaptation. It is used in those cases where the type of situation being referred to by the source language message is unknown in the target language culture. In such cases, translators have to create a new situation that can be considered as being equivalent. For example, if we translate Qais wa Layla, two famous Arab characters who were known for strong love. If we translate the two characters as Qais and Layla by transliteration, I think we won't get the message across. I don't think those two characters are known across the world as symbols of love. So, in similar context, people tend to use Romeo and Juliet, who are well-known symbols of love across cultures. One final example, which is more frequently used in this context, is the first line of Shakespeare's sonnet, number 18. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. This sonnet was translated many times. But if we translate a summer's day literally, it will be misleading to the reader. Basically, the picture of beauty that Shakespeare intends to describe using a summer's day doesn't give the same meaning in different cultures. Simply because summer may not be as lovely and temperate in some parts of the world. So we can replace the word summer with spring, which is a mild season across the Arab world. We can say يوم الربيع أو يوم من أيام الربيع. Some translators maintained the same picture given by Shakespeare and used the word summer, which is scorching in some parts of the world, like فطينة النائب من ذا يقارن حسنك المغري بصيف قد تجلى. On the other hand, Abdurrahman al-Sayyid was aware of these cultural differences and produced a unicultural translation that could be interpreted positively in all cultures. هل أنت فصل بحسن بدا بل أنت حسن له أجهدا. Any culture can simply refer to any season they like while reading this sonnet or any similar example. We can discuss each type in more detail later as planned. Thank you for watching and see you later.